Hello, I'm Millie.
And I'm Joseph, and this is St Aidan's BBC News School Report.
So Joseph, this is my first news report day. I have to say it's been rather hectic.
Well, Millie, I've done 4 now, and this has been the most organised day we've done. And we've definitely got some good stories coming up for you viewers.
Yes, from shocking revelations about the amount of sugar that's actually in your food, to whether e-books are ruining reading.
Have you noticed how the EU referendum is all over the papers and all over the news? But what exactly will it change for us in Britain?
We sent Lydia and Lark to London to find out.
David Cameron has delivered the goods early on in his second term as Prime Minister. On the 23rd of June, an EU referendum will be held, in or out.
MPs have labelled this landmark a political decision to last a lifetime, and with the Tory cabinet split and a very defiant Labour Party to the left of them, polls are very narrow. But how big of a difference will this vote have?
Well, I'll be campaigning to stay in the European Union because it's good for workers, and it's good for consumers, and it's good for the environment. I think the EU symbolises lots of countries coming together and working cooperatively for a common good. Well, I think one of the most important things for younger people is to make sure that we've got jobs for when you leave school, when you want to get a job. And being part of the EU does create jobs in the UK economy.
We spoke to some students and Mr. Smith to find out their opinions.
Well, I believe we should leave, because I believe as Britain we would be a stronger country without having other countries in the EU pulling us down. And I believe we can make our own laws and govern to our own way in order to make us a better country.
I think Britain should stay in the EU because I fear for a deterioration in trade and retail.
I think it's a bit sad that the debate's just focusing on economics and on money, and on how much money Britain can get out of it if we leave, or how much money Britain can get out of it if we stay in.
So what about the Leave campaign? Boris Johnson has challenged David Cameron by leading the Brexit initiative. The Mayor of London may be good friends with the PM, but any loyalties have been put aside.
Can Britain really be affected alone? Can Britain still survive without the support of the EU? Some people certainly think so.
Boris Johnson said that the UK had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make its own relationships with the other nations, and that staying in the EU was the risky option. Michael Gove, the former Education Secretary, said that leaving the EU would enable the UK to control the type of migrant who entered the country.
The European Union was formed in 1993, and since then it has tripled. 28 countries, including the United Kingdom, share policies on several areas, but perhaps this will be the year that this cooperation is dismantled. Only time will tell, as a clear outcome remains to be seen. Back to Millie and Joseph in the studio.
Let's see what happens on the 23rd of June.
Next up, have you noticed that there are less bus services nowadays?
This is because the government has cut funding from Lancashire County Council, and in turn Lancashire County Council has had to make drastic cuts to services such as buses, libraries, the youth service, and they've had to be closed down in all 12 districts from within Lancashire.
Rebecca went to find out more, and about how these cuts will affect the people in Lancashire.
A vital and busy transport link now set to disappear from Knott End.
Lancashire County Council are having to make savings of £262 million by 2021, forcing uncomfortable debates of what should be cut and what needs to cost more, including raising council tax by 4%. But although right now as students we won't have to pay council tax, how will these cuts affect us?
From the 3rd of April, Blackpool Transport to UC will run like normal every half an hour from Monday to Saturday. However, it will only run from Blackpool Town Centre to Poulton on Sundays. The 86 and 89 service run by Stagecoach will cease to exist from 3rd of April, meaning there are no more direct links to Fleetwood, Thornton or Cleavers from Knott End. However, the council made a U-turn in their decisions to cut the 89H service, which runs from Knott End through Pilling and into Lancaster. The service is now to be retained. We spoke to Kat Smith, our local MP.
Well, obviously the cuts that councils are making are very much to be regretted, and they're not cuts that I'd have wanted to see being made. The reality of the situation is that Lancashire County Council's lost about half its budget, and Wyre Borough Council, where your school is, will have lost 89% of its budget by 2019-20. These are absolutely huge cuts, so giving money to bus subsidies is going to be very, very difficult going forward.
So how is this going to affect us?
It will affect me because I need to get into town a lot, and I normally get the 2C bus basically every single day.
Without being able to use the 8-6, it'll jeopardise my social life. The 8-6 is going to affect me really badly because it's going to stop me from getting over Wyre.
But it's not just the buses that are being cut. They are also cutting over 40 libraries, and they are calling this closure unavoidable. And they are even having to restructure the Young People Service.
On Thursday, 3rd of March 2016, members of the Youth Council from all 12 districts came together in Preston's County Hall to discuss the future of the Young People Service. We caught up with Wyre Youth representative Tara to find out how she felt the consultation went.
And the organisers should be doing more to ensure that every young person's voice is getting heard, because there are services that are extremely important, and I don't feel as if we're getting listened to.
These budget cuts are not just happening in Knott End, they are happening all over Lancashire. And with more budget cuts to come, it is safe to say the future of Lancashire looks bleak. I'm Rebecca, reporting for BBC News School Report. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks for that, Rebecca. It's good to hear that campaigning for things can work.
But now, how many of you have lied on Facebook or exaggerated the truth about your weekend to try and make yourself seem more interesting? For our next story, Beth and Lizzie investigate how pressure online can force teenagers to lie and make themselves more exciting.
The other week, Tarpley High School in Cheshire began a digital detox in which none of the students were allowed on any social media, YouTube or video games in an attempt to see how long they could go before giving up. So how many of you use filters, change your lives and put on a front to impress the people you know? We decided to get our own scoop on this story to see how students at our school are affected by social media and if they felt pressured into being something they're not in their day-to-day life online. Here is what we found out. We sent out a survey to forms of our school and found out that the most used apps here at St Aidan's are Instagram and Snapchat, with a combined 498 students saying it is the one they use most frequently. The average student in our school alone spends over 4 hours on the internet or on social media. We spoke to Miss Boyce to see what she thought.
I've seen both sides of the coin really, positive and negative. I've seen Facebook, Twitter used in a negative way where people are having arguments online and some cyberbullying has occurred. But I've also seen it as a positive where students have used it to help each other with projects or with homework.
Sorry, I was just really enjoying this book.
Recent studies have actually shown that e-books can improve reading, especially for children.
Millie and Lauren have found out more.
As more and more technology is being introduced, more substitutes for books are arriving. You can now read on a Kindle, an iPad and even a computer. Now thousands of people across the country have e-books. The real question is, e-books or paperbacks? We spoke to Irene Pitton at the National Literacy Trust, who undertook some research about e-books to find out more.
At the National Literacy Trust, we're always looking for ways to encourage people to read. We run an annual literacy survey. It involves around 30,000 children in schools all across the UK. And since 2012, we've noticed that more and more children and young people have been telling us that they read more and they enjoy reading more using technology. The schools that signed up to the study offered ebooks to pupils for an average time period of about 4 months. And over this time, we were surprised to see that girls' reading progressed by an average of around 7 months and boys by an average of 8 months.
In our school, we found out that 48% of our students have a device that they can read e-books on. And over half of those questioned, a whopping 58% said that they would read it if they did.
What about the opinion of an English teacher? We interviewed Miss Fuson, Head of English here at St Aidan's, to find out her thoughts.
E-books, I think generally they're a very positive introduction in schools. Anything that gets young people reading more frequently, and perhaps trying different genres of books through e-readers is definitely a positive thing. Definitely seen an increase in our school of e-readers being used, so it's all positive in my opinion.
So overall, e-books seem to be a good idea, both in school and at home. But what do you think, Millie and Joseph?
Personally, I prefer paperbacks. I feel like I like to be able to see how far I've read. What about you, Joseph?
Personally, I prefer movies. You know, Netflix.
Anyway, on the theme of technology, this term, Year 7s were introduced to the future technology encoding, microbits.
These tiny devices allow you to program, make apps, loads of different things. And Ben, Michael and Noah went to find out more.
Microbits are the new computer for writing code or sharing your creations. They are being supplied by the BBC as they want to give the Year 7s the opportunity to code. The microbit is a handheld, fully programmable computer being given for free to every Year 7 nationwide. You can use your BBC microbit for all sorts of cool creations. From robots to musical instruments, the possibilities are endless. This little device has an awful lot of features, like 25 red LED lights that can flash messages. There are 2 programmable buttons that can be used to control games, or pause and skip songs in a playlist.
One of the most exciting things at the moment is for Year 7, and this is across the country, they're all getting one of these. This is called a microbit, and this is made by the BBC and ARM, who are a UK manufacturer, and Lancaster University. And what they've done is they've come up with this really great way to stimulate an interest in computing and computer science as a subject, to try and encourage you to program and try and encourage you to create and be creative with computing. So a whole on it. So what we can do with this bit is we can actually connect an app on the phone to the microbit, and the app on the phone will allow you to use your microbit to control the phone. At the moment we're just teaching them some basics about how to program the microbit, and then we've got this open-ended competition where they're going to be able to do anything they want. And there are students already right now at Coding Club doing so many different things with it. We've got students connecting it to electronics, hacking headphones, there's somebody doing a bag alarm, and next week somebody's asked me if I can bring some fruit in so we can make the microbit be a fruit keyboard. I mean, to be honest with you, it is just an empty shell, and the students can make it do so many different things, and that's already what we're starting to see them really keen and really enthusiastically wanting to do.
It was recently revealed that there are a lot of hidden sugars in our favourite drinks and favourite food.
Harry, Anna, Tilly, Tori and Olivia use donuts to show us more. We're just helping get rid of the leftovers.
Are you always aware of the amount of sugar that's in your favourite food and drink? There may be quite a lot more than first come to mind, as sugar is often hidden from view. We already know about the large amount of sugar that a single can of Coke contains. But did you know about these other types of food that also contain excessive amounts of that sweet ingredient we all crave?
In a 440 millilitre bottle of orange passion fruit drench, there's 26.4 grams of sugar. In a 275 millilitre bottle of blackcurrant fruit, there is 31 grams of sugar. In a 500 millilitre bottle of Lucozade, there's 43.6 grams of sugar. In a 500 millilitre bottle of Ribena, there's 50 grams of sugar. Approximately in 12 Oreos are equivalent in terms of sugar. In a 500 millilitre can of Monster, there's 55 grams of sugar. Approximately 6 Kellogg's Marshmallow Square bars.
Wow, look at the treats you can eat for the equivalent amount of sugar.
We caught up with Mrs. Russell, the school's food technology teacher, to see what she had to say on the topic.
What problems can eating and drinking too much sugar cause?
Tooth decay, it can cause diabetes, general overweightness and obesity.
What's the maximum amount of sugar we should have a day?
Okay, adults should have about 90 grams of sugar a day. Children of your age, 11 years plus, should be having no more than 7 teaspoons of extra sugar a day, which scarily enough is the amount of sugar that you get in this one bottle of Drench juicy water. There's so much hidden sugar and it is so bad for us. Really, we should be having sugary drinks as a one-off treat, maybe once a week, and the rest of the time we should be trying to drink water.
Perhaps I should be sticking to more water in the future.
With exams upon the horizon for everyone at the school, many students are wondering how they're going to survive this treacherous period. But what are the best ways to do this?
Barry, Becky and Tilly have found out from members of staff the best ways to prepare for exams.
There's lots of advice about how to prepare for your exams, whether they're next week, after Easter or in May. We've come up with some tips on how to prepare yourself for the next few nightmare months.
Last week, Year 11 had a whole day dedicated to learning how to revise for their personal development day. Mr. Tyson tells us a bit more about the techniques they learnt about.
Year 11 had the privilege of having an outside company called Learning Performance in to deliver a number of sessions on revision techniques, one of which being mind maps and different memory techniques. The best way to prepare themselves for the exam would be to start early. They would also need to make sure that they have a revision timetable set out, they know when their exams are, and to give yourself regular breaks.
So, how are the Year 11s feeling about the exams and how are they preparing themselves?
Well, I'm kind of dreading them, but it's also quite a positive thing because it's at the end of like 2 years of hard work. I use mind maps, I test myself with past papers, and I go to revision sessions, or sometimes test myself with friends as well.
So, what's the best things for helping with revision?
Okay, eating healthily is really important to revise effectively, particularly making sure that you drink lots of water so that you stay hydrated, and that will really help you to concentrate. Making sure you're eating enough as well is really important, because if you've not got the energy that you need to revise, you're going to find that you're really tired and unable to complete your revision. Try not to eat lots and lots of sweets and crisps and things like that. They do tend to make you feel a little bit sleepy. You should try and eat things like fresh fruit and vegetables. Fish is also very good for you. Just trying to eat a balanced diet really, and not too much of the bad stuff.
One of the most important things with revision is that you get plenty of sleep. If you go to bed late and you're having to get up early to come to school, you're going to be tired the next day when you've got exams, and that's the last thing you want, particularly when you're sat with a lot of other people and it gets warm. So early nights, good eating is also important, and you know, it's better to get up earlier and then be fresh for school rather than going to bed late and thinking, you know, I'll revise late into the evening.
I think one of the really important things is that they find somewhere to hide their phone or give it to their parents. Really important, I think, because it just saves them from being distracted. Give it to somebody, then it's not being distracted. After your 20 or your 40 minutes revision, then you can get your phone back, check your messages, and then you can respond to anything that's happened on your phone whilst you've been focused on your revision.
One of the really good things is to have lots of different coloured pens so that you can pick out key parts of questions. It's good to have little pieces of paper like this, or flashcards where you can put the subject on one side and then lots of notes on the other side and test yourself. Obviously having lined paper where you can spider diagram or a map or mind map your different topics and subjects. Having all these resources will help you organise yourself better and mean that hopefully you can revise better.
This is Marion Tilley reporting for St Aidan's BBC News School Report. Back to you in the studio.
You know what? I'm going to use those tips to revise this year.
Now, our sports reporters Aled, Brett and Joe are going to update us on whether or not tackling in the school rugby will be banned. They'll also be reporting on the rising ticket prices of Premiership football games.
Rugby is a sport that has been around for over a century and thrives over the tackling that adds to the high-tempo game. But there are several reports that have emerged about whether or not tackling in schools should be banned, as 2/3 of injuries caused in school rugby are due to tackles.
Doctors have urged UK and Ireland schools to ban tackling in rugby and make it a non-contact sport in schools, in order to allow students a safer PE lesson inside of school.
Doctors say that the injuries that can be caused include concussion, fractures and dislocations, and if serious, school children can spend up to 7 whole days off school, which will eventually mean that the students' attendance can go down.
Well, I don't think tackling in schools should be banned because it'll defeat the whole objective of the game of rugby in the first place, and it won't be rugby without tackling.
Like, the kids need to be taught how to tackle properly by the teachers, and if they're not prepared to get injured, then they shouldn't be playing.
We caught up with Mr Armfield to see what he thought of this matter.
The key aspect for rugby is obviously the physical contact and being able to perform the skills within the challenge of physical contact.
The RBS Six Nations is looking forward to the biggest game of the tournament this weekend with England versus Wales at Twickenham.
Ireland entertain Italy at the Aviva Stadium, while Scotland face the French at Murrayfield.
We are all looking forward to the action-packed weekend full of rugby. Here, Joseph, catch.
Oh, good catch. Now it's time to move on to our final story. Is using knives and forks the key to human evolution?
Scarlett, Holly and Charlotte went to find out more.
How often do you use a knife and fork? Every meal time? Only a few times a week? Have you ever thought about the benefits of cutting up our food? Well, using table manners has impacted the human race and the evolution process enormously. Cutting up our food before we eat it has led to evolution and development of language. Harvard University has discovered that the reasons that human straws and teeth have decreased in size is because humans use table manners when eating. Biology teacher Mrs. Grimmett told us what she thought about this report.
With the rising increase of fast food restaurants, is there a possibility that if we stop using knives and forks, we will end up with the mouth features of the common ancestor to ourselves and the chimpanzee?
It's difficult to say because species change all the time and humans change all the time, just very slowly. And it's possible that if our genes change, the shape of our mouth could change, and if we have to chew our food more because the pieces are bigger, then possibly we could get wider jaws. But equally, there are lots and lots of humans in the world who don't use knives and forks. So many cultures just eat with their fingers anyway, and there's no evidence that their mouths are changing that I'm aware of.
So next time you don't use a knife and fork when eating, think about how much table manners have affected your life.
I'm definitely going to carry on using knives and forks. I don't want to regress back to a chimpanzee.
You're already a chimpanzee.
What?
Nothing. Sadly, that's it for today. We hope you've enjoyed our report. Joseph, how does it feel to do your very last school news report day?
Well, after being part of this for 4 years now, it has been one of the most amazing times of my life. Livewire Media Club as a whole has been such an amazing experience. I cannot thank everyone from Ms Nisbet, who originally started it with Mr Ireland, with Miss Kolinsky and Miss Cross now. From the bottom of my heart, it has been one of the most amazing times I've ever had, and for all the opportunities from BBC News to actually going there in London and being able to edit everything, I wouldn't be where I am today without you, and it really warms my heart.
Are you okay?
So I'd just like to say thank you very much.
So it's a goodbye from me.
And a final farewell from me.
Bye.